Hello and welcome to Doom Does DVD, and this is Disney Classics number 38, Fantasia 2000. At this point we have finished with the Disney Renaissance and we're moving on to what's generally called the post-Renaissance. An era where there's apparently some interesting stuff, none of which I've actually seen, so I can't confirm that yet. But also where box office performance just wasn't as good as we've had in the previous 10 years. And whether that's down to lower quality features on Disney's part, or whether it's due to the fact that the Disney Renaissance brought around a lot more competition, that we will have to find out as we continue through the box set. But today we're talking Fantasia 2000. This is one which, much like the package era, I didn't even know existed until I got this box set. I really enjoyed the original Fantasia, so I'm kind of looking forward to this one, depending on what it actually turns out to be. Just looking at the poster, which calls it an IMAX experience, which I'm guessing along with the title of Fantasia 2000, was some kind of fancy millennium project. There was all sorts of those in the year 2000. But the question is whether it's a remake, a remaster, or a sequel. I would hope it's just another set of nice animated shorts set to nice interesting music. But the disc still features Mickey as the Sorcerer's Apprentice, so at least one segment is either repeated or remastered. So I'm hoping it's more like a bit of both, that some of the best of Fantasia has been redone and some of the other parts have been replaced by new things. All in a nice big widescreen IMAX format rather than the 4x3 that the original probably was. So yeah, let's just say cautiously optimistic for this one. Let's jump in and see what it's like. Well, I am glad that this turned out to be another example of the same concept rather than, any kind of remastered situation. Aside from The Sorcerer's Apprentice, everything else here is new. When the original Fantasia was developed, the idea was apparently that they would be repeated over time. There would be multiple instances of this. And, there would be repeats of favourite segments and new ones added, and I guess give various animators chances to, experiment with a little fancy short every now and then. But then given the financial disappointment the original Fantasia was, that never really took off. And I'm also guessing that seeing as it's now been 20 years since Fantasia 2000, that they still aren't really considering bringing back that concept on a regular basis. Which is a shame, because it definitely feels like it's something that would have potential, but I guess maybe not as a full theatrical release like this. Maybe you could throw one 5-minute segment on the beginning of all your other releases, kind of like the Pixar shorts. Or these days you could release them all separately as a mini-series on YouTube or Disney+. The thing is about this one is it just didn't seem to have quite the same level of magic as the original. The real-life talky bits in between each segment, they just felt a whole lot more polished. In the first one of those, Steve Martin comes on and introduces things. And I thought, that's cool, they've got someone I actually heard of to host this one. But as soon as that's done, he's gone again. They've instead this time got a whole host of celebrities, and with a different one introducing each segment, including the likes of James Earl Jones and Penn and Teller. And I just found all that to be sort of, unnecessary filler. You could have called that, taken what you paid these celebrities for their 1 or 2 minute appearance, and then put that money into paying the animators for another short or two. These talky introductions don't really bring a lot to the whole thing. The only useful information I found in them was knowing the title of the music that was about to be used, but that could just be achieved with a subtitle. But I think my biggest disappointment was actually the quality of the animation itself. Here, as has been a common theme recently with Disney, we have a very large usage of computers. And usually I am all pro computers. They have many uses and are perfectly fine as a tool for animation. However, in this case, I don't think that tool has been used particularly well. Because as with everything, it's not the tool that's the problem, it's the person wielding it. But it's also kind of a perspective of time. It's like some of this stuff probably was pretty groundbreaking at the time, but just looking at it from 2020, it can't help but start to look a bit dated. That's something that doesn't really happen as much with hand-drawn animation, but the early computer textures just lack so much detail. They look smooth and everything. It just looks dated. If you saw CG of that quality made today, you would think it was done on the cheap. So it gives you this kind of wrong impression of what it actually is, and it sort of looks like something they kind of rushed out quick for a sort of fancy Millennium event, rather than something that was groundbreaking and the best they could do at the time. Although it strikes me that the true answer is probably somewhere in between there. Because, you know, at this point in the whole animation story, we're 5 years after the first Toy Story, which, to be honest, is also fairly basic when you go back and look at it. But there's one of the shorts here about the steadfast tin soldier, which seems to be, like, purely CG, and it just looks very basic. Like, taken on its own as a small short, it's probably, you know, interesting. But in this grand Fantasia IMAX experience, up on a big multi-story screen, I can't imagine it looked that good. I did, though, really like the last of all the segments about the Firebird. It seemed to have the most interesting story, the most dynamic animation, the most interesting piece of music to me personally, and it just felt like it was the one that had had the most effort and love put into it. And it also ended the thing on a very nice, strong piece of music, unlike the original, which I thought should have ended with Night on a Bare Mountain, but went with an Ave Maria thing instead. So thumbs up for a much better ending, but everything else was a little bit disappointing. Have you guys seen this one? Tell me about your thoughts in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again next week with The Emperor's New Groove.